If you're like most people, you don't make great decisions when you're stressed, right? We say things we shouldn't, we do things we perhaps shouldn't. And the reasoning behind this is we are acting from the stress response, right? The stress response, a generic response in our body that triggers a level of thoughts, feelings, and actions. Today, what I want to introduce is a framework that you can use to kind of override that stress response. Get yourself back to an optimal state to make better decisions and take better actions. Because again, I invite you to think back of decisions you've made when you're under a lot of stress, and they're usually not your best decisions. And so, what I want to kind of talk through today is what we can do when we feel stressed so that we know we're not making reactive decisions. We're actually using all of our brain to make decisions rather than just the limbic reactive part of our brain. The framework I'm talking about is something I call the 4Bs, right? Body, breath, brain, behavior. And I'm going to walk you through each of these steps, right? So that you've got a practical understanding of like, okay, what do I do when shit hits the fan? What do I do when I feel stress kick in my body? So let's talk about how stress actually works, right? The stress response is an automatic response, right? Something triggers my body to generate a stress response. That could be something I remember. It could be something I'm thinking about I'm doing in the future. It could be something in the present moment, right, in my environment that triggers my nervous system to generate this stress response, right? My heart rate kicks up, my breathing gets faster, I might feel tense, I might feel a little bit anxious, right? All of this is the response, right, or a response to stress. And it's my body's attempt to change my state to get me to take action. But when we're in that stress state, it actually kind of knocks out the part of our brain that's smart, right? That has logic and reasoning and planning, and it just turns on this limbic system, which is very reactive. It's kind of shoot first, ask questions later. Not a great place to be in when we're talking about how we're speaking to other people or decisions we're making, right? So most people try and think their way out of stress, but the level of my thinking is dependent on the state of my nervous system, the state of my physiology, right? There's a reason it's called stress physiology. So what people need is a physical mental reset. And this is where the 4B framework comes in, right? So let's start. First B is body. Stress physiology, right? This is occurring in my body. If we think of what the fight or flight response is designed to do, designed to get us to fight or to flee, right? Oftentimes when people are exposed to stress because maybe it's to do with their job, right? They're sitting at a desk, they're stationary, they're sedentary, right? There is physiology and there's chemistry occurring in my body designed to get me to fight or to take action and run away, right? And if I'm not doing that, my body doesn't perceive that I'm engaging with the stress, right? And this can lead us more to a shutdown response, right? I feel overwhelmed, I feel like I can't do anything. It's like, because I'm not taking any action, my body resigns itself to like, oh, wait, well, maybe we should just play dead, right? So we actually want to move some of this chemistry out of the body, right? Again, think about what it's designed to do, right? Adrenaline, cortisol, right? We want to kind of burn up some of that chemistry. And so the first thing we're going to do is actually move our body. Right? This could be as simple as stand up and sit down 10 times, do some squats, do some push-ups, do some star jumps. What I really like to do is just give my body a good old shake, right? Get up and just shake my arms and legs and bounce up and down and just take 60 seconds to move my body and move some of that energy through my body. Once we've kind of processed some of that energy, right, through movement, and my body perceives, oh, we're taking action, this is us fighting or fleeing, right, which suggests that the stressful event is passing, we then come to the second B, which is breath, right? Breath is our kind of gateway, right? It is a remote control to our nervous system. What we're doing is we're slowing the breath down to calm our system. Evolutionarily, right, we never breathe slowly in a stressful situation. So when I can manually override my breath and slow the breath down, my brain, right, is using all that information to say, well, never in our evolutionary history have we breathed really slowly while something super stressful is happening. So now that I've kind of moved my body, burned off some of that chemistry, and now I'm using my breath to suggest to my nervous system the stressful thing has passed, right? How do we do that? We're going to drop our breath rate down to as close to 6 breaths a minute as we can, right? It's about a 5-second inhale, 5-second exhale. There's room for a little bit of tweaking there, right? Really what we want to find is a slow, steady, intentional breath, right? I'm the one doing the breathing and it's slower than usual. I like to use this both as a tool to regulate and also a checkpoint, right? For me to move on to the next stage. If I can't breathe in for 5 seconds and out for 5 seconds, then I need to go back and manage my body a little bit more, right? Go for a walk, take a run, do something, right? Move some more of that energy and then come back and try and breathe slowly. Once I can hit that 5 seconds in, 5 seconds out, we've now kind of passed that checkpoint. We've calmed the nervous system down and we're going to shift our attention to the third B, which is our brain, right? Stress literally narrows our focus. It puts us into tunnel vision and it traps us in this kind of reactive, anxious-based thinking. It's a threat detection mode. Now there's a kind of backdoor entry into our brain and our stress response. And that's what mode of awareness we're in, right? Now just briefly let me touch on these kind of 4 different modes of awareness. We can be in external awareness, right? I'm sensing what's happening out there, or we can be in internal awareness. I'm sensing what's happening in here. Now, in both of those, we can also be broad, right? I'm taking in all the information, or narrow, right? I'm focusing on one specific thing, right? An example, right? I could kind of just see the space around me, or I could zoom in and I could look at the tip of this pen, right? So broad to narrow. Same thing internally, right? If I'm in an internal broad, I'm just kind of sensing what my body feels like. If I'm in an internal narrow, maybe I'm zooming in to sense my heartbeat, or the sensation of my thumb, right? A specific point internally. What we're trying to do is move between these modes of awareness. When we switch, for example, between broad and narrow, or external, internal, it results in slowing down our brainwaves, right? So we're kind of reverse engineering. We're using this shift of our attention away from narrow to broad, right? To slow down my brain and to take me out of that stress response. So what I really like to do as I close my eyes, I sense what's out in front of my body, right? Even though my eyes are closed, I know there's a computer there, there's a window in front of me, there's some trees out there, there's walls, right? I'm sensing out there, right? External and broad. And then I'm going to shift my attention back to the space just behind my eyes, right? I'm now sensing what's just behind my eyelids, internal and narrow, right? And then I'm going to unfold my attention back out there, right? External and broad. And I'm just going to spend about 5 or 10 seconds in each of these modes of awareness, right? Ending with that external and broad. What this is doing is slowing down my brainwaves, right? We're bringing the kind of prefrontal cortex back online. We're minimizing the activity of the amygdala, right? And so we're starting to bring back the adult in the room, our logic, our reasoning, right? Which allows us to get out of this survival state and into a far better state to make decisions. We arrive at our 4th B, right? Behavior. Now that we're back in control, what's our best next move, right? What should we be doing? And we can literally pause and ask ourselves, like, what action serves me best right now, right? Instead of snapping at this person, maybe I take a breath, right? Maybe I slow myself down. Instead of shutting down, I can't do this, right? Maybe I decide on one small incremental task that I can achieve, right? The idea here is not making decisions in the middle of a stress response. It's navigating the stress response, getting back to this point of balance, and then asking myself, what's the best thing that I can do right now, right? This is a very different response to if I just kind of autopilot, take action or react when stress is hitting. I'm literally resigning myself to make decisions from my limbic system, from the more reactive parts of my brain. And that's a little bit less, it's more us versus them, or me versus them, right? It's short-term survival-based thinking, right? It's not taking into account, well, how's that going to make this person feel, or what's that going to happen with this relationship, or if I do that thing, what's going to happen with my job? You know, that part of your brain is offline when the stress response is hitting. And so it's really important that we can kind of like crest that wave, get back to a place of balance before we then decide what is the appropriate action for me to take. Right? So to kind of sum this up, right? When we realize we are stressed, someone says something, something happens in my day, right? Whatever's going on, and I feel that stress response kick in. Rather than taking action in that moment, first thing I'm going to do is come back and manage my body. I'm going to move, I'm going to jump, I'm going to shake, I'm going to bounce, I'm going to move some of that energy out of my body. Then I'm going to come to my breath. I'm going to slow my breath down to about 6 breaths a minute. 4 or 5 seconds in, 4 to 5 seconds out. Do that 5 rounds, right? If you can, you're ready to move on to the next step. If you can't, perhaps you need to move your body a little bit more and discharge some of that energy. Once we've used our breath to control our nervous system, we shift to our brain, right? Using this shift of different modes of awareness, internal narrow, what's behind my eyes, external broad, what's out there in space, and jumping between those modes, right, to have a result of slowing down my brain waves, bringing back, right, the smart part of my brain that isn't as reactive. And then I come to behavior. What action serves me best right now? Now that I'm in a regulated state, now that I'm through the stress response, what's the best thing I should do? Right? And usually you'll find on reflection, oh, I'm glad I didn't snap at that person. I'm glad I didn't send that email. I'm glad I didn't say that thing, because now, as I've brought myself back to a state of regulation, I recognize there's a better thing for me to do, right? So this is how we go from stressed and reactive to calm and in control quickly, right? This is a 2-minute, maybe 3-minute practice. But having this framework, right, in your tool belt allows you not to just kind of like, well, I don't know how I'll respond to stress and it just leaves it up to chance. Is you now have a framework with, it's like when this happens, I just go bang, 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 bang. I manage my body, manage my breath, manage my brain, and then I come to my behavior, right? If you found this helpful, drop, BBBB in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe. I want to jump more into these practical videos shortly. Thanks for hanging out.